Welcome to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. Are you ready to discover some niche business ideas that actually work? Well, it's time for a motivational kick to jumpstart your next big idea. Here's your host, Spencer Haas.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Haas from nichepursuits.com. And today we've got a guest with us. We're going to do a great interview here, but I also have my co-host with me. Perrin, how you doing?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Yep. And our guest today is Steve Scott from stevescottsite.com. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Spencer. And hi, Perrin.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us on the podcast. You know, we wanted to have you on because you've had so much success recently that you've been sharing on your blog with Kindle publishing in particular. So we want to dive into that business a little bit. But before we do, can you give us an idea of what led you to starting an online business in the first place?
Online business or the Kindle publishing?
Online business. We want to go way back.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. It was 10 years ago for me.
Yep.
I will do the absolute quick Cliff Notes version. It was like the rock bottom point in my life. I was just got divorced. I had to literally move back home with my parents, $15,000 in debt. And really the only out I saw was something online. Like I did have temporary jobs, but I just, like everyone else that's probably listening, I just was trying to figure out a way to make money. Kind of the real the quick version of this, I just eventually went to affiliate marketing. Really started going full-time around 2005-ish, 6-ish. So basically a year or so after that. And then since then, I've been just pretty much improving the business every year, getting a little bit better. And in 2012 is when I got into Kindle publishing.
And yeah, we're not going to dive too much into what you were doing previous to Kindle publishing, but you say affiliate marketing. Were you blogging? I mean, what types of things were you doing to kind of make ends meet from 2005 to 2012?
See, a lot of it was stuff that really we can't apply anymore, but it was the traditional, you make a squeeze page, you go promote on easyinarticles.com or YouTube. Like back when stuff was really easy where you could just create content elsewhere, you didn't even really need a blog, drive everything back to a squeeze page. And back then it really, as you probably know,
Mm-hmm.
back then you could do it pretty quickly, pretty easily, and you could build a substantial income just by driving everyone to a squeeze page. And obviously with all the numerous Google updates, it's really that those loopholes have closed. But back then, I kind of always followed the authority mindset where you just build one or two sites and just focus on driving traffic to one or two sites.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that you learned there that you now apply to your business. I mean, still building an email list, building a sort of an opt-in offer, all those things that still apply very well, of course. So you're ahead of the game as far as that's concerned. But you started publishing Kindle eBooks in 2012, you said. When did you start stevescottsite.com?
I started that in January 2011, so I would say it was maybe a year and a half before the Kindle stuff, and I just started for the basic fact I'm sorry, actually, let me backtrack. It was January 2010, so I'm off here.
That's right.
So yeah, I guess it was 2.5 years before I got into Kindle publishing. And like a lot of people, when I started the blog, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I pretty much wrote about everything. I wrote about health, personal development, internet business, all over the place, like the worst mistakes you can make with a blog. I just wrote about anything that popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I started noticing from comments of when I did talk about my internet business, I would talk about traveling and stuff I was doing, and the question kept on popping up. Well, what are you actually doing, or how are you actually supporting yourself? I'm like, well, I run an affiliate marketing business, and I kept on making these aside comments. I run an internet business, and people kept on asking questions about that. So the one thing I didn't want to do is what I end up doing is I started talking about internet business stuff because I actually at the time I didn't really feel like I was qualified to talk about it, even though I built a business. Maybe it was just a confidence thing or something. But yeah, just started talking internet business. Just morphed into a kind of, for a long time, just affiliate marketing internet business site.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to kind of touch back with Steve Scott's site a little bit. So I wanted to bring it up here in the beginning. But obviously you've been able to build a decent-sized audience with that blog, that platform that you have there. But let's transition now into our discussion of Kindle publishing. That is, at least currently right now, that's what you're well known for. Can you give us some idea of the income or sales numbers that you're having right now with your books?
Sure. Actually, it's the 2014's been going really well for me. I would say the first half of the year I started out anywhere from, I'd say, $14,000 to $20,000 a month. In May, I had my biggest month that was $60,000, and it's gone down a little bit to 50-ish the last couple of months. And I think last month, we haven't seen the report yet for August, but I think it'll be around 30 or so. So it's like any business. It goes up and it goes down, but every time it goes down, it doesn't quite go down as much as it did before. It's
right.
You definitely can build on that platform.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers are huge, and I mean, it's no shock to me. I've been reading your income reports on your site, but maybe for people listening, I mean, anywhere from 30 to 50,000 in a month. I mean, that's just huge. I mean, that's a significant business. Obviously, there's a lot that you can do with that, but it's not a simple business. It's something that you've developed a lot of skills to make this happen, and that's what we want to dive into here during this interview. So, First of all, I'd like to talk about a couple of your actual books that you've sold. Maybe give some people some examples that they can latch onto, they can check out, they can say, oh, this is the product that's selling really well, and this is how maybe I can replicate it. Can you give people the URL they can go to where they can see your author page, your list of books?
Sure. The ones I'm pretty much well known for now, I did internet business stuff at first, but now I kind of focus on the habit stuff. So they can find that at habitbooks.com, and that's just redirect to my Amazon author page.
Perfect. Yeah, so that'll give people a list of all your books, and I went and I just checked that out now. It looks like your most recent book is called Master Evernote, the unofficial guide to organizing your life with Evernote. So let's talk about this book a little bit. How well has this most recent book sold for you?
It sold pretty well, actually. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm looking at the page right now, so I'm trying to do a quick conversion of British pounds. So I'd say $14,000 I've made with that book ish. And that's definitely an ish because it's which we can get into. There's Kindle Unlimited sales that are not actually included in the actual accumulation of over the last 90 days under my sales dashboard. So I would say anywhere from 13 to 15,000 ish would be a good ballpark figure for that.
And that was released in July?
Yeah, that was released in July.
So that much money in about a month from one book?
It was, from, let's see, I'm looking from July 9th to today, which is September 11th. So I guess a 2-month span. Yep.
About 2 months. So that's really good, actually. Yeah. And we know you have a lot of other books as well. But let's stick with this example specifically. What's your process for launching a book? How did you launch this specific book to make it do, now it's doing, $14,000 in a couple of months?
Honestly, pretty much my entire business model has been email marketing. It's been like you mentioned before, that's a lesson I learned way back with affiliate marketing. Everything starts with an email list. And I tend to do things a little bit differently than what most quote-unquote Kindle gurus suggest, where they always say you should launch a book for free. I like to launch my book at 99 cents. And then I launch it for 99 cents for a whole week or so. And during that time, I try to drive as much traffic as I can from my email list, various Facebook groups that I'm in. And I just found the kind of network effect, the catalog of books that I have, just by launching at that price, you get a lot of sales in an initial short time. And then when it goes up to $2.99, it tends to stick in Amazon's algorithms and show up on what are called customers also bought. Pretty much it shows everywhere that Amazon will typically promote a book. And I would consider almost all these short sales all these sales in a short amount of time to be individual votes that shows Amazon that, hey, this is a book that people really like and they're downloading or responding to. Yeah. And Amazon just knows to start promoting it heavily. So I don't want to say gaming the system, but it's a way to really get Amazon to notice your book and to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, that actually brings up a question. I have no idea if you know this statistic, but what's your best guess as to how many people are actually buying from your email list and how many people are new people that discover you through Amazon? Any idea as to what that ratio might be?
Unfortunately, it's really hard to tell because of Amazon's,
Right.
they're really careful about the data that they give. I do know that in the first week or so, I would say a large it's like 80-20, but it then reverses percentages. So the first week it's 80% me, and then it's 20% just people finding out Amazon because it's starting to hit there's like a chart that says new releases, almost like on iTunes, like new and noteworthy. There's like a new books that people can check out. So during that first week, I'm driving a lot of traffic to it. But once that week is over and it goes to normal price, there's still a little bit that I do on my end, but I would say it almost reverses to 20% my effort, 80% Amazon's doing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. So that gives people the idea of the power of having that initial email list, but also the huge amount of power that Amazon has behind it once you gain momentum, right? You start getting on those bestseller lists, and Amazon can kind of take over from there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not really a foolproof system because at the end of the day, though, if the book is something that people don't like or doesn't have a good cover or you're not providing good content, it'll go quickly on the charts and it'll sink just as fast. And I failed to launch a couple of books that just didn't take off because I just picked the wrong topics or it was just something people didn't really want to read.
Yeah, definitely. I actually want to dive into that, kind of the quality of the books and all those things that you mentioned. But one other specific question about how you're emailing your list. How during a launch period, how often would you say you're emailing? Certainly, day it's out, you're sending an email. How many follow-ups and other promotional emails do you do during that launch period?
I tend to take a more long-term approach because I know I'm always coming out with new books and I'm always doing 99-cent deals. So I only send 2 emails. I would say, actually, let me preface that. I would say I send 3 emails, and let me start by saying I divide my list into 2 sections. There's the Steve Scott site list, the people that know about the Kindle publishing, internet marketing, that sort of thing, and then there's Develop Good Habit list, which is for that market, like habit development, personal development, that type of crowd. So for the Steve Scott list, I really only email once and maybe twice, but really it's only one time from the Steve Scott site list.
Uh-huh.
And then from the habit list, I'll email them the first day, and then I'll do 2 days out from when I decide to bump it back up to $2.99. I'll send another follow-up email, and it's kind of a light touch. And I'm definitely aggressive where I say, hey, go buy my book, but I try not to hit them with too many offers because honestly, I want, this is a long play for me. I don't want to burn my list just by one book launch.
And how big are those respective lists, the Develop Good Habits list versus the Steve Scott list?
Sure. The Steve Scott is, I think it's almost 15,000 right now, and Develop Good Habits, I think I'm hitting, I don't have a waiver in front of me. I think it's, off the top of my head, I think it's 17,500.
Yeah, and do you find one more responsive than the other, or
yeah, actually,
how do they work?
Actually, I find that the Steve Scott list is 20% open rate, and they both have the same click-through rate, but 20% open rate on the Steve Scott site list, or 20 to 25%. Develop Good Habits is 30 to 35%, and I think that's just a simple matter of it's a newer list, and people, I've basically trained them to open their emails because they know that they'll get a special deal on the next book.
Yeah. No, that's let's go ahead and dive into this. Well, actually, let's take one step back. So you told us about your Evernote book that you launched and kind of the process there. What about your most successful book to date? What is that book, and how's it doing right now?
I would say I'd hide it, but people have already kind of ripped it off. It's a book called Habit Stacking. Let me actually pull up I only have the last 9 days, but that was launched in late April, so there's a lot of data that I don't see immediately in front of me. But I would say that's actually probably generated a rough estimate. In the last 90 days, that's generated about 25,000. But I know during the launch it was selling like gangbusters, like up to 1,000 copies a day. So I'd say a decent guesstimate would be probably 50 or 60,000 I made from that one book.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. Does it and how many copies is that? Does it say how many copies total that you've sold?
I do have some data. I don't really have it right in front of me.
Okay.
I'm looking at just in the last 90 days. I would say the most I sold in the last 90 days was 300 copies during a normal $2.99 day. But I did a 99-cent promotion for a week or so, and that was upwards of 600 copies a day. But I know I should actually, and actually because I have my VA do this, but I should actually track how many units I've sold per book. It's just one of those kind of 80-20% tests. I really just don't think it's that important.
Yeah, no, it's more of just a curiosity, and kind of goes back to the question of, where are the sales coming from? Now that we know the size of your email list, and only 20% of people are even opening, those, or, of one list, of 15,000 people. I mean, clearly most of your sales are coming from Amazon, not your email list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I would be the first to say that. And I feel, though, the catalog approach really helps that, where even if it's one of my books that doesn't really sell that well, someone might check it out, but then they're like, oh, he's got some other books, maybe those are pretty good. So it's almost like a website, an authority website, where you have many long tail stuff that when someone comes on from one book, they might actually decide that, hey, it's not this one book that I like, it's this other thing. So I really like the idea of building a whole brand on Amazon.
Yeah, and I don't want to just brush over that. I guess I've been following your site. I've heard interviews that you've done elsewhere, and we've interviewed Johnny Andrews recently that talks about Kindle publishing. And so I sort of know the importance of growing a catalog of books. Anything else you want to touch on there as far as just the importance of having additional titles for people to look at?
I think I pretty much answered. But yeah, it's the idea that you really just – you want to offer as many things as possible to people. And actually, the way I when I originally got started with Kindle publishing, I almost kind of looked at it like a blog, where, you hear the talk about epic content, but instead of actually writing these lengthy 5,000 to 10,000 word posts on a blog, you just put it in book form and try to answer everyone's question, but it's everyone's question about one specific topic. So to take Kindle publishing, for example, instead of trying to have the quintessential book on Kindle publishing, I actually broke it down to 4 different mini books that just cover specific topics. So I wrote about how to research a niche for Kindle publishing, and I wrote about how to write the book, and then I wrote about how to actually market the book. Then I wrote about kind of my views on the difference between the free strategy and the 99-cent strategy. So you can almost take the idea where you take one large topic and just break it down to individual books.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great approach, because people usually want as much detail as possible. And so if you can have a whole book on one niche topic, that's great. And that's what people want, I think, anyways. So.
Yeah, I love your blog for the simple fact that you really geek out on data and stuff like that, and that's something I absolutely love. It's just you get really into nitty gritty, and I think people kind of appreciate just when you really dive into a topic. Yeah,
no, absolutely, I agree. I mean, I sometimes wonder if people really want to see my spreadsheets, but hey, I like it, and I'm glad.
I love it.
I'm glad you do too, Steve. But so let's talk about developgoodhabits.com a little bit. So you launched this site a while ago, I guess. A year or so ago, is that?
It was launched, a real soft launch, in January of 2000. What the heck is that? January 2013. So I guess it's
okay. So
a year and a half or so. But it's really not. It's and I guess we'll talk about that. But the blogging front hasn't been one of my biggest successes.
No, that's okay. I mean, I know you launched that and have kind of used that along with your Kindle eBooks to help them grow each other, I guess, in a way, to help grow your authority, to grow your reach and increase your sales. How specifically do you use your eBooks to grow that site, and vice versa? How do they interact and leverage each other?
I would say it's more just one direction. I try to use the blog to grow the email list. I do occasionally will send my email subscribers back to a really what I hope to be an engaging blog post. But it's just one of those things that I started with the best of intentions, and I just never quite had enough time there. But I almost feel now that the fact that I didn't really aggressively promote it, I didn't do aggressive link building strategies. I just put content out there, and I would do interviews like this, or I'd talk to a couple of people who promote my other book. I would always try to almost name drop, throw my blog in there so I'd get those backlinks. Mm-hmm. And it's starting to pay off, for the fact now I'm starting to get some pretty decent Google traffic, anywhere from 250 to 350 visitors a day from Google. So I'm starting to kind of rethink my strategy of not really paying attention to the blog.
Yeah, so you say that the blog hasn't been that much of a success. So I'm really wondering how you built your email list. If your blog is just now starting to pick up steam, where are you getting those 17,000 emails from?
I would say the blog adds about 10 to 20 subscribers a day. So it does its part. Most of my traffic, most of my subscribers are driven from the Kindle books themselves. So it's almost a self-perpetuating process where every time I come out with a book, it adds more subscribers. And then when I come with a future book, there's more people to buy, and it just keeps on feeding on each other. And when I first started, it was like I had not a lot of subscribers. So I would say the first 4 or 5 books, it was pretty tough because I really couldn't get many people to go buy it or download it or get it for free. The 1 or 2 books I found that were directly related to internet marketing, something that habit related, that's more about business habits, promote through Steve Scott's site. And I kind of made a decision one day that I didn't want to just not tell my the people that were following me for my internet business stuff. I just didn't want to not tell them for the sake of a case study. And I pretty much decided one day that the case study was kind of irrelevant anyway. And unless I did in a complete closed off thing where I didn't talk to anyone, it really didn't. I guess I really didn't prove my point of what it takes to run an authority site. Well, I guess the thing for me is I would tell myself that if people had to buy the book, I wouldn't give away for free on the internet business stuff. And if they wanted to spend 99 cents, that shows that they actually have some interest in the topic itself. So I would say the internet business stuff helped grow it a little bit, but a lot of times it was just putting the book up on the Kindle platform, and they would just build on each other.
Right.
Yeah, that's some great points. I mean, I know you started developgoodhabits.com as you said, a case study to build an authority site and to be able to do that. But it's also difficult to know how viable that case study is, simply because you know that other people are going, to that site, checking it out, right? And you mentioned it, of course, on Steve Scott's site, and so a lot of traffic is going from Steve Scott's site to Develop Good Habits and probably joining the email list there. Do you think that Develop Good Habits would exist without Steve Scott's site?
That's a really hard one to answer. That said, though, if I didn't have Steve Scott's site, I didn't actually write stuff about Kindle publishing, I just developed myself to develop good habits, I'm pretty confident it might not have happened as quick for me, but I feel I could have turned that into a pretty viable model. And it's really hard to know with the data. Like I do know for a fact that lots of people bought my book just because of the interviews I do about Kindle publishing. So I'm not going to sit in line and just say that it has no effect on it. But I do feel that if my attention was divided between the two brands, I could probably really develop good habits into something really pretty massive.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, now you are getting 200 to 300 visitors a day from natural search engine traffic. So you're kind of showing that strategy is working as far as that's concerned. Clearly, you're building an email list from sales that came from Amazon and not any of your other sites or your email list, and you're building it that way. So clearly the model works without having, Steve Scott's site and Develop Good Habits kind of working together. You could have done this all from scratch. But having said that, there's nothing wrong with using what you have, right? You have resources, you're building a business, why not use them? And that kind of takes me to my next question that is more of personal advice, I guess. I don't know how well people listening are going to be able to apply this to themselves, but it's a discussion I have in my own brain that, maybe you do too, and you can share your thoughts on this, but essentially is that for my blog, nichepursuits.com, I do have a very large email list and following. And I'm sure that I could launch Kindle eBooks and leverage my email list to do quite well selling those books. But I've always been kind of hesitant because I don't want to be that guy that makes all his money from teaching people how to make money building websites or whatever, right? So do you have any advice for me for my dilemma?
I would say, honestly, stick with what you're doing. I don't want to dissuade anyone from doing Kindle publishing, but I found for me, it just worked for talking about Kindle internet business stuff because I didn't really have too much else going on. I didn't really have a way to monetize the Steve Scott site blog. But you honestly have built a brand as far as the software that you provide and the case studies and stuff like that. So I would see it almost wouldn't be an effective use of your personal time I think your time would be better spent elsewhere. That said, if you came out with a really kind of bang up book, I am sure it would sell like gangbusters on the Kindle platform. I've seen actually, I know Chris Guthrie published a couple books and they did pretty well, but I don't think he saw the numbers that he thought he would. And I'm not sure there's a huge marketplace on Amazon for internet business stuff, and I feel it's kind of growing crowder every single day.
Yeah. No, that's great advice, actually. Some good tips that I can think about there. And almost, if I wanted to get involved in the Kindle publishing, I'd almost have to do somewhat of a shift in my focus instead of writing about building niche websites or doing keyword research, maybe a little bit broader topic about some larger lessons I've learned through running a business or something like that, right?
Yeah, I would say so. It's one of those things, and I really am a firm believer of that. When you're doing something well, you stick to it. For me, Kindle publishing is doing really well, so I definitely want to stick to it. But I know you guys are talking about putting an authority project together, and if you could find the right market for it, or that's a market that fits well with the Amazon platform, I could see that being a great way that you can monetize that website. But maybe not for – I don't know if it would be the right move to do for internet business stuff. That's just kind of my opinion.
Yep. No, absolutely. I appreciate your opinion. And I mean, just in fact, I have no intention. I was not really considering writing a book. I mean, like I said, I've sort of thought about that, but it's so low on my list. I have so many other things that I want to do that it probably never would have happened anyways. But I think it's a good mental exercise to kind of go through and think about, well, why am I not doing this to promote my business, to grow my business? And, the answer is, well, I have so many other things that are doing quite well that I probably just don't need to at this point. So now let's dive into maybe mistakes to avoid. There's a lot of people that want to be Kindle publishers. They've never published a book out there. What are maybe one or two common mistakes that new Kindle publishers make that you can help them avoid?
Well, at the risk of sounding self-serving, but it really is true. I wouldn't just go and check out my books and just write everything I write, because I do have people that do that all the time. And they're not thinking about a topic. It's almost like what you do an authority site. You want to find a niche. You want to actually sit down and identify who you're best serving and write books for those particular people. And for me, I feel a mistake that pretty much everyone else recommends. Just go on Amazon, find what's selling, and just rip them off. And I think that's a real kind of short-sighted mistake, or short-sighted kind of mindset, because you're just going to be putting another Me Too product in the marketplace that really doesn't differentiate yourself from everything that's out there. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's a mistake. I would say a huge mistake that I made that I really need to overcome is getting the content itself. Like, I felt my first couple of internet business books were pretty good, but they didn't have an editor. They were short and to the point, but also the language wasn't there like you would need to with a book. And I kind of made the blogger's mindset, if the content's there, people won't care. And that's really not true on Amazon. People really do care about grammar. They care about formatting. They care about the overall presentation of the book itself. So I would say you almost immediately want to get a more professional appearance of a book. And it's pretty easy to go to Elance and find an editor and find a formatter. And I would say also an e-cover, a lot of people will do the Fiverr thing. Well, they'll just go to Fiverr and be like, all right, I'm going to slap that up there and hope it sells. And really, that's another way people shoot themselves in the foot, because the covers just look awful, especially if they use just stock photography. So I would say the more you can do to make a professional appearance of your book and connect to a certain audience, the better long-term your business will be.
Yeah, great advice. So you recommended Elance. Do you do that for both your editors and your covers? Is that where you found people?
Yeah, actually, I use the same people. Actually, I have two editors now, but I'd say one editor and my cover guy I got from Elance, and my other editor is just someone I was just talking to, and her and I were exchanging emails. I know she did editing one day. I was like, I almost felt like I kind of need what they call a development editor, where I take some of my ideas that I'm not entirely sure really are good content and throw it by her, and she would actually give a kind of deeper level edit to that than what you would normally get with a proofreader. Just you're not using this word here and there. So I tend to now just run it by her, fix it up, and then send it to another editor. And I try to do what traditional publishing people do as like what they do, but without the 6 to 7 month time it takes to publish a book. I guess within the 6 to 8 weeks I have, I try to make it as professional as possible, but I do just try to get out there.
Yeah, no, that's good. I've seen the covers of your books. I think they look fantastic. So that's encouraging that people can still find somebody on Elance relatively easily to develop a good cover for their book as well. That's something. I mean, that's just for me. I don't do graphic design. Yeah. I really need somebody to help me out there. So.
Yeah, there's no way I could do my own covers. I know that.
Yep. Now. So how important is the title of the book, would you say, or the overall topic? Certainly, hopefully people can find a market and develop themselves into an authority within that market like you've done in habit building and related topics. But what about the title itself? How do you come up with titles?
I thought it was important for a long time, but I never realized how important it was until the habit stacking book. And I did an interview with James Altucher, and he actually pointed out the fact that it was the secondary promise of the book. It was 97 small life changes that take 5 minutes or less. He said that last part about it being a simple, actionable thing that people can use. He said that's probably one of the main reasons that book's selling like gangbusters. It's not only are you getting 97 tips, you're getting stuff that you can immediately apply into your life. And that was like a big light bulb moment. So now I'm really trying to take my titles seriously as possible and try to get stuff that really hooks people. So I would say it's almost like you would with a blog post. You want to look at Copyblogger, you want to build your own swipe file, you want to get a collection of titles that you feel work, and more like the not directly in the Kindle space, but if you're walking in the supermarket, you look at the cover of Cosmo, who has like excellent titles. Just start building these little titles, pull all the stuff that you see works on other platforms and put together in a Word document. I actually have something printed out that every time I need a title, I'll just pull out that book and start working over different titles. And what I'm starting to explore in the future is Mechanical Turk. That's mturk.com. Mm-hmm. And just run by a couple of your winner titles and just get people to vote on it. Or I guess Tim Ferriss has a great example about how he did PPC ads. So you could do even Facebook ads or PPC ads and just get as much feedback as you can on certain titles and really try to find the one that stands out and really grabs people's attention.
Yeah, no, great tips there. That's definitely something I need to do a little bit better. I've started at some point to put together sort of a list of titles, blog posts, things that really catch my attention that I can look at for an example. But I need to really develop that out a lot more because that can be used for more than just Kindle ebook titles. That can be used for your email list titles or headlines, your blog post titles, and so many other things. It really is a good tip to use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love my swipe file. It's one of my favorite tools.
Yeah. Now, Perrin, before we move on, do you have any questions about either how to write the book or content of the book or anything related to that?
Not specifically the content. I am kind of wondering about develop good habits as an overall business, because I know the bulk of it is Kindle publishing, but you do other stuff too. So I kind of like just a state of the union for that business, like are you going to focus more heavily on Kindle publishing, or are there other revenue streams that seem to be working or growing? And just, overall, how are all those things coming together, and are you dropping some or focusing more on others?
It's hard because I absolutely feel the Kindle publishing is that's 90% of my income. That said, from the beginning, I did open an associate's account. I did actually run all my ads through different spots on my website. Like, in the Amazon Associate program, you can create different targeted ads, and you can just figure out which spot of your website are generating what clicks and how much revenue. So I would say I generate anywhere from $800 to $1,200 a month from Amazon Associate links. So in my opinion, it's not too bad for what it is. There's print versions of my book. That's pretty small. I would say same thing, almost like $800 to $1,200 a month from the print version. Actually, no, there was 1 month where I had $2,000. And then you can also take a book and you can put it into audio format. And that's done through the ACX program. I think it's called Audible Creation Exchange Program. That's acx.com. And there you can either have someone record the audio for you for a revenue split, but actually just like everything else, I work with a company, they create the audio and I just put my audio version, and that generates anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month. And what I'm trying to dive into now is foreign translations. And that's still kind of new. So I've signed some contracts that promise a couple grand for my books, but I haven't seen money for that yet. So I'm not really sure how viable that is. And finally, I'm actually starting to explore affiliate marketing. Like I just sent out an affiliate marketing email for Habits course from Barry Davenport last month, and I think that generates $1,600. So I am starting to try to grow from other things beyond the Kindle platform, with the understanding that, like the lessons that we've learned from Facebook, Google, e-zine articles, that sort of thing, that while the stuff's going well right now, you should assume that maybe you wake up one day and things won't go well. So you want to start branching out on other things.
Yeah, good advice for that, and very interesting to know kind of the other revenue streams that are going on there as well. Perrin and I, right now, we have a new website that we're working on, a larger authority website project that we've talked about a little bit on our blog and the podcast here. Right now, it's a new project. We basically don't have hardly any traffic coming to our website. We don't have an email list right now, but we are actively writing out our first Kindle ebook because we think it's a great fit for the market that we're in. Yeah, Perrin's about a third of the way done with it, I think. We've kind of picked our topic. We're going with it. But what recommendations do you have for us? And, of course, anybody else out there that, they don't have traffic, they don't have an email list, but they want to launch a Kindle ebook. How should we do that?
I would say if you're literally starting out with nothing, I would definitely go the route of launching a book for free, even though I don't personally use it myself, but I know other people who have successfully done it. Actually, if you look on my blog, it's one of the more recent ones. It's I'll probably have to give you the link for the show notes, Spencer, but it's this guy, Nick Loper, who I know. He actually launched – actually, you met him.
Yep, I know Nick.
And he was on the podcast, brain fart.
That's all right.
But yeah, so Nick actually had a really successful launch with one of his books, and he just launched it for free, and I think it got like 20,000 downloads. And on my blog, he actually details the exact process. But I would say if you don't have any sort of audience or anything, you really want to focus on getting as big of a free launch as possible. And it really isn't a matter of just putting on all the free sites that are out there. You really want to write the best possible book, have it be something that really adds a lot of value to it, and just then literally go knocking on as many doors as possible of people in that space, and just ask them, hey, my book's for free. Can you promote it, or can you recommend it to your crowd? And it all comes down to networking, so it's easier said than done. But a lot of times if you approach someone the right way, you'd be surprised by how well they're willing to help you. But I would say you really want to get a free launch and have it go off like gangbusters. But I would say even before that, you really want to have some sort of free offer. You want to put a lead magnet in the front of the book and start building out that email list. And I would say you'd start working an email list even before you work on the book or the blog. Like I did that with Develop Good Habits. I actually wrote my lead magnet before even starting the blog. I had it up there, and then I started building out the actual content for the website. And because I just know from just experience, email marketing is the most important thing. So it is. I'll be the first to admit it's hard what people are getting when they're starting off, but you want to do a good free launch, and actually you also want to have some other platform besides Kindle. So that could be a podcast, blog, or YouTube channel, whatever you feel is best for your kind of just what you like better. What if you like creating video, if you like speaking, or if you like creating content written wise. But it's pretty much a matter of just going out there and hustling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, great tips. And for us, we are just starting out. We are thankfully implementing some of the things that you mentioned. Like we have built a lead magnet, and we haven't quite started capturing emails yet, but hopefully here within the next 7 days, I'm going to probably start doing some paid advertising on Facebook just to build out a small email list. We know it's not going to be huge, but we're going to start getting some of those emails. And this first book that we do, it's going to be a learning process. We just know that that's the way it's going to be. We don't expect it to do as well as your latest books, of course. But we hope that by launching a book to start now, that will help us build our audience And as we launch additional books in the future, that will just snowball a little bit. So it might be 6-12 months before we see decent results, but we're kind of using the Kindle ebook to help us build our email list and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, another great strategy, I can actually provide a detail of how to do this in the show notes as well. It's if you don't want to just do the paid book, you can do what they call perma-free, and that's kind of a little sneaky technique. I'm not too sure how you guys refer sneaky techniques, but it's you basically price a book for 99 cents on Amazon, then you post it through smashwords.com, which is kind of a ebook aggregator they submit to a bunch of websites, but you price it for free on there, and eventually Amazon will notice that it's free on other spots, and they'll price match it down to 0 cents, or for free, and you basically have a free book permanently on Amazon, and you could put a lead magnet offer in front of that and grow your traffic that way.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And so
it's a little bit of a loophole.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. Yeah, I'm curious about lead magnets at the front of ebooks, because obviously in an ebook you can't have a pop-up or anything. So how are you driving people to the lead magnets, or how are you capturing emails with a lead magnet in an ebook?
Oh, okay. I should have explained that better. I just put a cover image and a redirect link. I think it's developgoodhabits.com/bonus or something like that. I actually forget myself. And it just goes to a squeeze page through lead pages. So it's just they click a link and it just goes to the opt-in. And actually, I've looked at it on the Kindle device and it pops up, and I've looked at it on my Paperwhite and it pops up even there. So
really?
So it does show up, and a lot of people do their reading on their smartphone. So it's I like the lead pages system because they're real clean, mobile optimized pages.
That's awesome. Very good to know. I had no idea that you could actually have like a lead magnet or a pop-up inside an ebook.
I don't know if it's a pop-up, but it definitely redirects to a web page.
It'll go to a site or a squeeze page.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that's really good to know, actually. I have never walked through the process, and so I was unfamiliar with how that worked as well. So, no, that's very good. We'll have to implement that as well. So, let's talk about Kindle Unlimited, which recently just came out, a new program from Amazon, which allows people for, I think, $9.99 to download unlimited amount of Kindle ebooks every month. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for publishers? I'm
still up in the air for that. Like I like some aspects of it. The other aspects are kind of scaring me because I guess let me start with what I like about it. I do like the fact that every Kindle Unlimited download acts as a sale in Amazon's eyes. So you can get a bunch of Kindle Unlimited downloads, and you can get a bunch of sales, and they'll throw them all together as far as the ranking algorithm. And I've seen evidence of the fact that all my books are starting to show up in the top 100 of the business categories, and I know that the sales aren't. I know from previous experience that the sales shouldn't have matched that kind of growth with my books. So I know that they definitely help with the algorithm as far as getting ranked and stuff. Mm-hmm. I like the payout. The payout's $1.80 per download, and when compared to what I normally get with the sale, I think it's like $2.10 for a sale versus $1.80. I think that the payout's pretty good so far. I guess what I don't want to say don't like, but I'm a little bit hesitant about is just another tool that Amazon's giving you that eventually they could pull the rug out from under authors, and I could see people just building their whole business just around driving traffic to Amazon and not doing stuff on their own. So I feel it like maybe I'm too jaded from just my experiences with Google that I don't love to rely on just one company, assuming that they'll always do the right thing. So right. I think it's a good program, but I want to see how it plays out for a couple of months before I absolutely say either way.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's always something that it's new. People want to know your opinion, of course, because you're well versed in the Kindle publishing business, and so yeah, just kind of curious on that. But I'd like to actually ask you, Steve, if we missed anything. What are some tips or other advice that you'd give to Kindle publishers? You've listened to, previous interview that I've done, of course, with another Kindle publisher. Maybe what's some advice that he didn't give or something we didn't cover here that you think we should have covered?
Maybe I'll just recap a few things, but I actually really like Johnny's. I think he talked about building a brand and building it like one type of niche market, and I couldn't agree anymore. Like, absolutely agree 100% with him. I think that's absolutely great advice. I would just reiterate what he said and say that it's a smart thing that he's doing as well. I would say I would almost, if you picture in your mind the spokes of a wheel, if you picture the center should be your email list. And I'm a firm believer in just driving pretty much every type of contact point with a person, try to drive them to an email list. So if you do a podcast, get them in the email list. If you write blog posts, actually on Develop Good Habits, I have 3 spots on every single page where people are driven to an email list, and the Kindle books are driven to an email list. I'm playing with SlideShare, so I'm really a firm believer that for me, I found that email marketing really works well. So if something works really well, you should really focus on it, doing as much as you can with that. Mm-hmm. I would say maybe what we didn't cover, I would say you really want to focus on the quality of the content. I know it's really simple to go outsource it or find a few other books that talk about the same thing and just reword what they've done. I would say that's kind of a short-sighted type of mindset. You really want to sit down and write the best possible book that you can and try not to cut corners on. Try to actually think of the individual reader on the other end and try to provide as much value to them as possible.
Yeah, great tips as well. I definitely agree. Those sound like very important points. For sure, the email list, I mean, just in general, I found that throughout my business that it all comes back to that. Just that's where you can build your audience. You own that list. Nobody can take that away from you. It kind of makes me a lot more comfortable, knowing that, hey, I'm not reliant on Google or Amazon or anything like that. I know I have this email list for sure. Perrin, what about you? Any additional follow-ups or anything that you'd like to dig a little deeper on?
Yeah, I want to know how you came up with the name for Steve Scott's site.
I had no idea. I had no idea what I wanted to write about, so I'm like, it sounds simple, and trust me, there's so many other ways. But I'm actually kind of glad I did it that way because I pivoted about 6 times to that website. So if I said awesomeaffiliatemarketingtips.com, then I would have painted myself into a corner then.
Yep. No, for sure. Now, I actually do have a follow-up that maybe this has been covered a lot, but I'd like to just dig a little bit deeper about picking topics, actual topics for the book itself. That's such a huge hurdle, and it's so important, I think, for people just starting out. What's your best advice for actually picking a topic? I mean, for example, your latest book is Master Evernote. How did you know to write about Evernote?
Well, I kind of cheat because I basically talk about what I find personally interesting. For like the last 4 or 5 months, I've really done a deep dive into. I started using Evernote as a way to capture my ideas and just follow up on them. And just the more I use it, the more I got to enjoy it. And one day I'm like, I love Evernote. No, I wonder if it sells well. And I looked out and I just saw all those books that sell really well. I'm like, maybe I should write a topic about that. So and habit stacking just came from something I did in the morning for like an hour before I started my work day. I would just do a bunch of small little habits that cover the gamut of the different areas of my personal life. So it's hard to replicate what I do because it just comes from just stuff I'm just interested in, just happens to all come under the umbrella of habits. But I would say for everyone out there listening that you do want to find a topic, but you want to find that one area that you might have a lot of experience in. And I always use a running example because I know running really well. But so say that you train for your first marathon, you learn a lot of valuable information for that. You could easily turn into how to train for your first marathon or something along those lines where you're taking what you know about one topic and you know it really well and you just write about that one thing. And I would say you do want to do a little bit of keyword research, which I kind of slam it sometimes, but there is some merit to actually go on Amazon, just looking around, see what people are buying with that particular topic. And I used to say just go find that one topic on Amazon, see if it's selling. And now I've kind of backtracked a little bit. I think it's more important just to find that the overall brand or the overall niche is something that people tend to buy on Amazon. And you simply just go look at the product description page and look for the Amazon bestsellers ranking. And if you see a bunch of books that have under the number 30,000, which is about 5 sales a day, you can kind of tell if that topic is selling or not. But I would say it almost is like a blog where if you continue to write about a topic enough, like stuff will seriously just pop in your head. You'll just start getting a lot of ideas, and don't be afraid to write down these ideas and flesh them out. Maybe do searches on Google, see what else is out there, see if people are even talking about that particular topic. And that's usually a pretty good litmus test that it might be something that people are interested in.
Mm-hmm. So that makes sense. So certainly you want to see, is that topic selling well? There's certain areas where obviously books, people just aren't interested in the topic, so they don't sell well. So yes, you want to find something that is a popular area, or at least, people are buying a lot of books in that area. But what about competition research? Should you be concerned if there's just tons of people writing books on this topic? How do you determine if you think you're going to be able to break into that market?
I'm kind of ghetto with this. I actually really just don't worry about competition.
Okay.
I kind of my long-term view is that, maybe that book won't do well right now with the competition, but if you just continuously, I guess let me preface this by saying that people have the tendency to worry so much about competition and so much about keywords. They'll spend weeks trying to perfect the perfect book to getting out there, and they won't do what I find to be the best sales strategy, is just write another book. Mm-hmm. And just continuously publish content, make sure it's good, and build an audience. And I literally don't care what competition is out there. And I guess that's easy for me to say, but it really is the best advice, that write the best possible book as possible, and just keep doing it and build that catalog. And eventually your books will naturally start to show up on other people's, or show up above other people's books that are just where they're more worried about the keywords than actually creating good content.
Yeah.
I love it. Great advice. I mean, that's somewhat encouraging for Perrin and I. Of course, I'm thinking about our market that we're going in. Huge market, lots of competition, but we feel like we can kind of dig out our niche, and as we build our audience, we think we can do well. So that it is encouraging for sure.
I'm kind of curious to see what this is.
We might have to share it with you after the call here.
Yeah.
But no, overall, thanks a lot, Steve, for coming on to the Niche Pursuits podcast.
Yeah,
we really
thanks.
appreciate your time. It's been great having you on. Is there a place that you'd like to send people other than stevescottsite.com and developgoodhabits.com?
I'm trying to think. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm starting a podcast in the next month or two. I might just throw a email capture up there, but an email capture for the only purpose of when the podcast goes live, I'd let people know about it. So if they go to selfpublishingquestions.com and enter the email address, I'll just let you know when the podcast goes live.
Sweet.
Perfect. Absolutely. Yeah. So selfpublishingquestions.com. Perfect. Yeah. And that is great to hear that you're going to have a podcast coming up. We'll be listening in for sure.
Okay, great. No, thanks for having me, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And just for everybody listening, best of luck in your business. Thanks again for listening.